I like to keep things simple, and this channel has always been about one thing and one thing only: recommending great books. Whether I devote a whole video to just one book or talk about several books, you can always take my videos as book recommendations. And in today's video, I will recommend 5 essential books, 5 novels that I have read and reread, and I think you should too. The 5 books I'm going to talk about are all great for different reasons, and choosing them was one of the hardest things I've had to do recently. So I would love to hear from you. What are your essential books? Please watch this video until the end, and then let me know whether you agree or disagree with my choices based on what I say about them. Would you not have included any of the books I talk about? Did I miss a great book that should be on this list? Please let me know in the comment section below and let's talk about it. As usual, all the books are listed and linked to in the description box for this video. The first essential book is Moby Dick by Herman Melville. I used to be terrified of this novel. Seriously, it took me decades to get to it. And I am here to tell you that I was wrong to fear it. Moby Dick is one of the classics that everyone has heard about, and that's not always a good thing, right? Sometimes I feel like I don't need to read classics that are so well known because I feel like I already know too much about them. That is so wrong and so stupid. But also because there is something about the word classic that, when attached to a book, makes it automatically sound less attractive. I don't usually read buzzy books, but wouldn't it be great if some so-called classics got some buzz from time to time? Anyway, Moby Dick is about search and obsession. A man named Ahab wants to hunt down and kill the whale that made him lose his leg. But how would that speak to us now? I mean, not many people who read this novel would ever encounter a whale in their lifetime. But I think most of us can recognize what an all-consuming obsession is and how damaging it can be. Also, there is the friendship between the narrator Ishmael and Queequeg, which is one of my favorite things about this novel. And then there is the action-packed adventure side of the novel. Yes, Moby Dick is considered one of the greatest American novels. But don't let that put you off. Very few other novels can be simultaneously both so much fun to read and so thought-provoking. And one of the greatest things about it is that it is a great novel to read at different ages. I read it well into adulthood, but I think I could have also loved it as a young reader. Okay, on to the second book, which is As I Lay Dying by William Faulkner. William Faulkner is an essential writer. I haven't read all his books yet, but I have read As I Lay Dying a few times. And wow, this is not an easy novel in so many ways, but boy is it worth reading. So you have this poor family in the southern United States. The matriarch is very sick and then she dies. Before dying though, she said that she wanted to be buried somewhere else. So now her family needs to take the coffin to that other place. Now, that might not sound exactly riveting, but As I Lay Dying is a tour de force. The novel has 15 different narrators, including the dead matriarch at some point. All the 15 narrators are characters in the novel, and they take turns in telling this story over 59 chapters. Now, you tell me, who could write a novel like this successfully? Which other writer could ventriloquize 15 different characters and tell a Southern Gothic story through them? William Faulkner is so influential that you might be able to come up with authors who have done something similar, but only after he did it. Next, I have one of the books of my life. I have read Tristram Shandy by Lawrence Stern way too many times, although I haven't read it in years at this point. This English novel is not as well known or widely read as it should be, probably because it's from the 1700s and most popular English classics are from the Victorian era. Tristram Shandy can be a lot of fun to read but only if you take the right approach. Not that there is just one right approach to read this novel, but you kind of need to know what to expect, okay? Tristram Shandy's full title is The Life and Opinions of Tristram Shandy, Gentleman. So you might think that this is some kind of life story in the style of Dickens. But if you thought that, you wouldn't have a good time with this novel, let me tell you, because Tristram Shandy is nothing like a Dickens novel. For one thing, you're not going to get someone's life story here. To me, the best way to read Tristram Shandy is as a collection of short stories, essays, sermons, and other kinds of writing. So the author, Lawrence Sterne, was an Anglican cleric, and he had a lot of intellectual interests and a big sense of humor. All of that is contained within this novel, Tristram Shandy. There is a narrative thread, more or less, but it is arranged in a non-chronological way and constantly interrupted by delicious digressions. Also, you're not going to get much about Tristram himself, but you will learn a lot about other fascinating characters like his father and his uncle Toby. Tristram Shandy is challenging, okay? But with a bit of patience and the right set of expectations, it can be one of the most rewarding reading experiences you will ever have. Then we have Madame Bovary by Gustave Flaubert, my favorite novel about adultery. Emma Bovary is this romantic girl who lives in the French provinces but dreams of a glamorous life in Paris. She marries a doctor, thinking that he will get her closer to that dream. But poor Charles Bovary is so dull. So what does Emma do? She has one love affair after the other. Will that end well? What do you think? Madame Bovary is just one of the greatest novels of all time. It is, to an extent, about individual responsibility. We might sometimes feel like we have little control over our lives, but there are always choices we can make. And the choices Emma Bovary makes in this novel are not the best, to say the least. Madame Bovary is so engrossing and so entertaining, and it is one of those classics that seems to have been written a lot more recently than it actually was. It is just a timeless classic. And the next novel is Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf. This novel is a day in the life of an English upper-class housewife named Clarissa Dalloway. Clarissa spends much of her day walking around central London, getting everything ready for a party that she's throwing in the evening. The period is right after World War I, and that is important because one of the main characters in the novel, Septimus, is a former soldier who is suffering from shell shock. Mrs. Dalloway is a portrait of a society that was coming to an end then. Woolf talks about what she knows, which is why the protagonist of her novel is an English upper-class woman with all the privileges afforded to her by being part of a class that had dominated not just the country, but much of the world at the height of the British Empire. The problem is that the empire was beginning to crumble, thankfully, by then. But this is also an intimate story about characters whose fears most of us share, which is why it is a novel everyone should read at some point. I have reviewed Mrs. Dalloway and all the other books in this video in full. You can find those reviews and many others in this playlist. If you don't see the playlist on your screen right now, you will find it on my channel's page. Thanks for watching. See you soon.